Welcome back to Macro Golf, Get Golfers Moving. This is episode number 8. First of all, thank you for everyone that's been joining me on this journey. This is amazing just to try and get you guys up off the sofa, up away from your desk and doing some kind of movement. Trust me, it's going to really help when hopefully we're allowed to go back out and play the game that we love. So as for all of these sessions, you don't need any equipment at all, just somewhere comfortable to lay down. And it's going to be like 10-15 minutes of just taking your body through some movements that it should be able to complete without any pain or discomfort. So you shouldn't leave this session feeling really tired. You shouldn't leave this session sweaty or aching or out of breath or anything like that. That is really not the point. The idea is that you walk away from this short session feeling a lot better than when you started that session. You can then go out, you can go on your putting mat, you can go back to your desk and be more productive. Whatever you do for the rest of your day, you can do it feeling a lot better and feeling a lot looser. So we're always going to start on our backs and then gradually work our way up onto our knees and then finally finish where I think we should spend most of our day, which is in a standing position. So we're going to take ourselves down onto our backs to start. And what we always do at this point is just kind of give ourselves a little bit of respect and kind of engage in the fact that we're going to spend this 10-15 minutes on ourselves. It's really easy for the world to go by us and we kind of just forget about actually looking after ourselves. So just for a few seconds, we're going to take a few deep breaths, breathing deep from within the stomach, really deep, open all of the ribcage, open all the diaphragm up, and a big exhale. So just take a few deep breaths here. Try and keep your back nice and flat onto the mat. You can shift your hips around if you want to, get a little more comfortable. But the idea is we're just kind of taking time out of our busy days, just to spend a little bit of time on us, just regain some of that movement that might have been lost. So today's session is going to be not as intense as episode 7, quite draining episode 7 for some people. So it's going to be a little bit more stretching focused, less strength involved. So just to start with, just take your right leg, put it out straight ahead of you, reach that heel forwards. And you're going to take your left leg up and you're going to hold just below the knee. And you're just going to pull that knee up towards your chest. Now, depending on various things, you might be able to pull your knee all the way up towards that nipple, or you might be able to take it out more towards the armpit. I don't really mind at this point, whatever's comfortable for you, but kind of just shift around and just get this leg into this flex position. And then all I do is kind of move from armpit to nipple and just kind of rotate between the two. If you want, you can relieve a bit of the pressure and then add the pressure back on. But just see how that feels. Is there any discomfort? Is there any pain? Are you getting any pinching across the front of the hip flexor? Just trying to be a little bit more aware of how you're moving. Now, if this is enough of a position for you, enough of a stretch, that's fine. If not, you can take your hands over the top of the shin, go closer towards the ankle, and then start to get a bit of a glute stretch that way. So then now we're talking about pushing this left knee away. It's totally up to you. If you want to go to this position, that's great. Just be careful, it could cause a little bit of strain onto your knees. So just be really aware of your body at this point, and really aware of how you're feeling. There's no need to push things any further. Whether you're in the knee, if you're in the knee, you can stay there with the knee to the chest. If you're in this position, you can stay here, or you can take it to the outside of the foot. And you're going to start to get a little stretch come to the back of his ankle as well. Totally up to you how you advance this. This can be quite intense, this stretch. Just going to say you have 2 more breaths. Slowly release. And we're going to swap sides. So right leg comes up now. We're going to start on the knee, pulling it up to the chest. So you'll notice with most of these stretches, I don't really kind of just sit in end range and leave it there. Even here, which kind of would be deemed as an end range stretch, I'm just moving around that. I don't really do a lot of static stretching. It's not really, I don't feel to get so much benefit from that. So I quite like to, even in these positions, kind of contract, relax. Put the stretch on, take it off, move it around. And that just gives me a better understanding of how my body's feeling that day. Obviously not for this session, but then kind of gives me an idea if there's something I need to work on today to loosen up. So if you want to stay here, that's fine, just keep moving in that position. If you want to kind of go over to the shin and move that knee out, that's fine. So with all of these, we just need to be keeping our focus onto our breathing as well. At this point, if you want to come to the foot. So in all of these stretches, we should be able to maintain this breathing, this nice deep breath. That needs to be our focus all the way through. It's a real important part of these sessions. Okay, so you can just let that leg go. And now you're going to move both legs up. So 90-degree bend at the hip, 90-degree bend at the knee, and 90-degree bend at the ankle. You take your hands up to get into the face of the sky. Now from this point, I just want you to really engage the core. So brace that core, and you can feel that this starts to work. Now we're going to drop the knees together over to the left hand side and over to the right hand side. But this is not a fast kind of intense movement, it's very, very controlled, all coming from the core. So if you can, you want to keep your shoulder blades pinned to the mat, and all you're going to do is rotate from the hips. It's really going to get some separation. This is, if you can do this, with keeping your shoulders on the floor nice and controlled, then you've got more than enough thoracic rotation to have a nice big backswing and just hit absolute monsters off the tee. So keeping the shoulder blades down, real controlled movements here. This is not a fast movement at all. You should be able to sit in this position, get both knees all the way over, and both shoulder blades on the mat. Just about there for me. They control it all the way back. Use the core muscles to switch back over to the other side. Legs drop over, knees together, both shoulders on the mat. So you see now we get the separation from the hip and the shoulder. So this is your measure of thoracic rotation, which is a huge, huge aspect of the backswing. And we've done one more time on each side. Come to the right hand side, let it drop over. You might find that you're stiffer on this side. So obviously you don't rotate if you're a right-handed golfer that much to this side. So if you're left-handed, this will be easier. And then on this side, for most of us, as golfers, we've actually got some pretty good thoracic rotation because we do the movement and a lot of people don't do that movement. So in general, our thoracic rotation as a group is pretty good compared to the more population. But you know what we're like, we always want more. So you're going to go all the way up, and you're going to go all the way back over to your right hand side. And then if you've done what I've done, which is come off your mat, just bring yourself back on and leave your knees to the side, but now you're going to bring your shoulders to join you. So I'm just going to do a little bit more of thoracic rotation in this position. So you can keep your knees, if you want to bring them all the way up, you can, but just as long as these hips are facing directly forwards and the knees are on top of each other, that's absolutely fine. So you can bring one hand onto the other hand, and then we're going to do opening the book. So just from here, you can keep your eyes relatively neutral, and then you're going to open up. Now, for this one, I don't like to push it too much. I mean, I could probably go a lot further than this, but I kind of just like to hold it around 80% bend range, and just see how that control feels. I'm just going to do 3 on each side. So you notice how much time I spend at that end range. It's not like a yank up and go. We're kind of very, very controlled. What that's doing is it's showing me that this end range is not dangerous at all to me. I can be in real control in this position. So just bring that back down, put the hands back together. Now if you want to make yourself a little bit more comfortable, you can. If you want to support your head, whatever. Now we're just going to work a little bit on the hips. So again, same as thoracic rotation, hips get a lot of attention in a golf swing. So keeping the hips nice and forward, looking straight, keeping the ankles on together, or top of the feet on together. You're just going to open up the knees. Okay, so you should be able to get this knee pretty much up to the sky without opening up this hip. If you want to support your head, you can. So the idea is we're not kind of rotating open like this. This stays nice and straight, and the only rotation is coming from that hip. So you do a few here. Really trying to, you can always use this hand to keep it down. I don't want you to open it up like this. That's not the purpose at all. I'd rather you stay right over and just work on that. Again, with these sessions, we don't really care about your range. This is not, we're not testing your mobility, flexibility, or anything like that. We're just getting you moving. Now we're going to do the opposite. So the knees are going to stay together, and now we're just going to lift the ankles off. So everything stays the same, apart from this foot. We're just going to lift the ankle off the other ankle and knees pinned together. So this is a movement that we don't often do, but it's such a key element in good hip health. We'll do 2 more here. And last one. Good. If you're weak in this area, that's going to start with burn, which is exactly what we want. So we're going to spin round. Well, I'm going to spin round. I'm just going to do the other side. So you're going to lay on this side, legs come up together, hand one on top of the other, and then you're going to reach up. So you'll see that I'm sure I could go a lot further than this, but I like to stay in this position. And just take a couple of breaths here. And you'll find as you exhale, you kind of just sink a little bit further into that. I'm not forcing it. My brain will start to know that this is not a position of risk. It's not a threatening position. And it will just allow me to get there a lot easier when I need to. So hand comes back on. If you want to support your head, you can. I'm just going to work a little bit on hips again. So knees and ankles together. Hips are going to stay nice and straight. Use your hand if you need to. I don't want this hip coming back this way. And all you're going to do, keeping your ankles onto each other. You can lift up and open. So this was a little bit tight for me on this side. I'm not sure why. So let's see if I can do that. So if I do feel like it's a little bit tight, I'm just going to kind of get to that near end range. Hold it, take a couple of deep breaths. And come back to the start. And then just try and push that a little bit further. Do one more here. And then come down, knees and down. I'm going to stay together. I'm just going to work on the other way. So just lifting that foot off the other foot. Down, 3 more here. We'll do 1 more. Good, take a rest there. Spin yourself all the way around onto your front and come into a tabletop position. Now we're just going to get a little bit of stretch coming into the lats, but again, we're not really going to do this as a end range static stretch. We're going to get quite a lot of movement into this stretch. So what I want you to do is just sinking your hips back slightly, walk your hands forward a little bit, just so you can start to get a little stretch coming into the lat muscles underneath your armpits here. So what we're going to do is we're going to move from a tabletop position at the top here into a back position here. So just shift yourself around. You can open your knees if you need to. I'm just going to move from the position here, dropping your chest down to the mat, to then up onto all fours. I'm just going to do a few movements from back to forth here. The reason I like to do this is it's quite easy to get lazy in this stretch when you just sit and range. So just moving back and forth means you're really engaged and you keep nice strong posture at this point. Drop the hips back. You can even push from the hands a little bit to push your hips back and then sink your chest down. This is a real important aspect of rotation, funnily enough. You wouldn't think it, but working on this is going to really help your ability to rotate. I'm going to do 2 more here. And the last one. Walk your hands back slightly, and now we're going to bring your left leg up to meet your hands. So, if you've been following some of these videos, you'll realise this is pretty much one of my favourite positions to be in, and I think we can spend, I just don't think we can spend enough time in this position. So, I just want you to get comfortable here and just start to have kind of a little bit of an assessment of your body, and at this point you've got some kind of variations of how far you want to take this stretch. You might find that this right now for you is more than enough stretch. If it is, don't get lazy in there. Really, really contract this glute. So I've got my left foot forward, right foot back. I'm getting a stretch on my right hip flexor, and I'm really squeezing this right glute. So I'm going to sit myself up nice and neutral. I'm going to pull my core in and I'll squeeze this right glute. And from there, you might feel that that is enough of a stretch for you in there. If it is, perfect. Stay there. If you are staying there, what you can do is just take the hands up to the sky and back down if you want to get a little bit of movement, okay? So this is option number 1, and you're going to spend around 30 to 45 seconds here. Option number 2, if you want to take it a little bit further, put your hands down onto the mat, keeping a nice strong posture, take your toe under, and you can lift that knee up, okay? Exactly the same, really squeezing that right glute. And from here, if you want to get a little bit of movement, I'm just going to let you drop the knee down slightly and lift it up, not down to the mat, but just very, very slightly. So this is position number 2. It's totally your choice which one you want to go for. Either one, that right glute is really contracted at this point. Again, I'm not a massive fan of just sitting at end range, so I'm just get a little bit of movement here. A few more breaths. Let the knee sink down if you're in position 2. Set yourself up to position 1. Take the knee back and swap sides. So right foot forward now. Again, just get that stretch on. So we're just letting the hips drop forward and down. I don't mind if you want to keep this knee directly over the toe, if you want to let it go out. But we're really now, left glute is squeezed, activated, nice tall, tucked in core, position 1. If you want to add movement in position 1, hands should come up to the sky without trying to hyperextend from the back and drop down, okay? But that glute remains contracted constantly, breathing nice and controlled. If you want to go to position 2, hands drop down onto the mat, toe tucks under, lift the knee up, and then your movement from position 2 is just to drop the knee down slightly and raise back up. Again, left glute completely contracted. Nice deep breath, don't forget about your breathing. I know this is a challenging stretch. A few more breaths here. And let the knee sink down if you're in position 2. Sit yourself up to position 1 and bring yourself around onto your knees. So, well done for sticking with me with that. I know that was not too pleasant for some of you. And if you do sit down a lot of the day, that is going to become super tight. So, working most of our time kind of on our backs and on our knees here. So we are going to do one thing standing up as we always do. So however you want to get there is up to you. I like to kind of come into a little bit of a deep squat. Kind of just sit here for a little bit, move myself around, and then eventually get myself into a standing position. That's just personal preference. So I like to kind of tuck my feet in, let my hands drop down, feel heavy in the hamstrings, and then come up to a standing position. So from this standing position, we're just going to work a little bit on some lateral movement and you can involve the glutes a little bit as well. So bring your feet nice and close together, have some room behind you, keeping your posture nice and tall and controlled. Your core is going to have to really work hard at this point. You're going to take your weight onto one leg, so I'm going to put my weight onto my right leg. I'm then going to step my left foot behind me and squat down into this position, okay? That's called a curtsy squat. So what I'm not going to do is let this knee buckle in inwards this way, okay? I'm really going to think about forcing this knee to the outside. So weight onto the right leg, thinking about forcing that knee to the outside, and then going to step back, squat down. This knee will come towards this heel, and step back up. And then I'm going to swap to the other side. Thinking about driving that left knee out, cross over, and squat down, okay? And I can just repeat between these two sides. Now if you're tight, this might be quite a difficult position to get into. That's fine. You don't have to go all the way down to the floor. Just go down to where it's comfortable for you. This really gets our hips moving in interesting ways that they're not used to. So you might see a lot of the female Instagram booty builders doing this exercise. We can build some nice booties as well. But mostly, this should get our hips to move in ways that they don't normally move in. So here, if you look at these, the way my hips are here, very rarely do we get into this position. So it's really nice to move here. Again, think about driving that knee outwards. We can do 2 more each side. Last 2.
and the last one. And take a rest there. You can stay standing. I'm going to come down onto my knees, and we can do our typical release after that session. So hopefully you already feel like your blood's pumped around a little bit better and all that stuff. Now we're thinking about just opening up from this chest, releasing from the tension from the neck and from the chest and shoulders. So open your hands up nice and wide, and then just let your head tilt off to the left. I like to tilt it a little bit back as well. Think about lifting my chin. Tilt off to the right. Again, lifting the chin. Then we'll let my head get heavy. Down to my chest. Tilt off to the left. Tilt to the right. Take my hands all the way up above my head. Big circle back down to my waist. We'll do 2 more of these, all the way up to my head. Big circle round. And last one, all the way up. And round. Guys, fantastic work today. Well done. Just by doing this one video, you're already closer to pain-free life, pain-free golf, all of the stuff that I always go on about. If you like that video, it'd be great if you hit the like button. Drop me a comment if you've got any questions. Obviously subscribe. I'm trying to release as many of these videos as I can over the next few weeks. But fantastic work today. It was a nice relaxing session, hopefully. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.